Shalom. Hello, everybody. Over the past 2 days, I attended the AIS, Association for Israel Studies Conference at the University of Haifa. The conference brought together scholars from around the world, of course, from Israel, but also from the US, Europe, and Southeast Asia. This year's theme was Israel and the international community after October 7. And this time, therefore, I did not speak on my usual areas of expertise, but rather from the perspective of someone deeply involved in interfaith relations in Singapore, both before and after October 7th. I was glad to see that the lecture sparked an engaging discussion, and if anyone is interested in the topic, please feel free to reach out to me privately. So, on the second day of the conference, my children joined, Ori and Daniel, as you can see. So, they joined me for the journey from our home in uh, southern Israel to Haifa, northern Israel. So, we traveled for 3.5 hours by train and then another half an hour by cable car. Um, and without a doubt, it turned into a very successful day for the kids. Next year, the conference will again take place in Israel, this time at Ramat Gan College. So if any of you are planning to attend, you're more than welcome to reach out to speak with me. You're also welcome to consult with me regarding abstracts for the conference. Those of you working on contemporary Judaism, um, you'll find your work highly relevant to the field of Israel studies. And personally, and this is why I'm sharing this with you, I believe it's important that conferences of this kind include more theology, more thought, ideas, and not only sociology, anthropology, political science, economics, and diplomacy, and having other Jewish thought scholars, Jewish philosophy scholars join conversations that have to do with Israel, I think is a blessing and it's necessary. So I'm both just happy to share with you um, a bit of my experience, the AIS. I would also like to note that a newly discovered photograph has just been made public in recent days. So you see here, I find this very exciting. It's Harav Kook, right? Rabbi Kook, the father of Avraham Yitzchak Cohen Kook. This is while he was staying in Switzerland in 1916, but living in Yafo, right? Remember, he was in Yafo from already 1904. Remember, Tafrei Samech Daled, 1904. But then for several years, he left. He left Jaffa, and part of the time he stayed in Switzerland. The photo appeared through Brand Auction House, and you can see the writing below, לזיכרון התעכבות הרב הגאון אברהם יצחק הכהן קוק, נרו יאיר מיפו בעיר סנט גלן, כן? בשנת תרע"ו, and I attached an English translation to this. And I mean, you search online for photos of Rav Kook, and this is very different than the well-known photos. So you're probably one of the first to being exposed to this photo. A good friend of mine that is often he often follows these these public auction house items found this. So this is really exciting. Now, I want to thank you all for submitting video responses to the previous lesson. So for me, it was truly nice to see your faces and hear your voices. I will say, if in the future you prefer to join the discussion in written comments rather than in video format, that is completely fine with me. So it's totally up to you. I think maybe some of you assume that I'm expecting a video, but not at all. I mean, I'm happy to watch you and hear your voices, but it's up to you. Um, you're welcome to join. Also, another point I want to raise is that you're welcome to join the discussion at a later stage as well. It can be last minute. It can also be a bit after last minute. That's okay. I assess participation at the end of the course, right? So only when the semester ends, that's when I make this assessment. So you can enter the discussion whenever it suits you. And as for me, there will be weeks when I respond at the beginning of the session, like I will do now, and other weeks when I will join the discussion itself. In any case, please know that I carefully watch and read everything. And of course, if there is something specific you wrote or you said that I did not address and you would like me to feedback, please write to me or tag me. I think there's an option of tagging in the discussion and I will respond. So let me share a story. Day after our class, I was sitting in a cafe in Emek Rifaim, German colony, Jerusalem, where someone recognized me from Facebook. I didn't know this nice person who approached me. Are you Mordy Miller? So I said yes, and he introduced himself as Matan Hasidim. So again, I didn't never met him before, and I didn't know him, and he was sitting with someone named Rabbi Baruch Kahana, a psychologist, and it turns out that they were preparing for a debate with another rabbi, Rabbi Yigal Levinstein from Eli. Maybe later on this course, I will tell you more about Eli. Eli is a settlement, and it has a pre-military institution and a yeshiva institution. Um, and they were preparing for the debate, and it has since been published. And if I don't, please remind me. I will share the link. There's a YouTube link, and this I happen to get in one of my WhatsApp groups. I attached also the English translation. You know, I will make sure every time there is Hebrew, there will be also English translation, so you can see what they were discussing. And this is, I think, quite interesting. So it shows how deeply the issue continues to resonate within the religious Zionist public in Israel today, right? What are they discussing? The central question discussed was exactly the one we raised in class. So you can see, it says here, האם אמר הדור שנכתב לפני יותר מ-100 שנה שייך גם לדור שלנו? Is the generation essay written over 100 years ago still relevant to our generation? And this is what stands in the core of their debate. Now, regarding the points you raised in your responses, some of you asked whether Rav Kook was perhaps too eager to find good within darkness. Also, another point, the relevance of his message for our times was discussed, as well as his ability to live within several worlds. He was strict in halacha, observing Jewish law, yet expressing deep love towards humanity and seemed to be quite open-minded about culture and literature. And he was also both, we saw he had both Hasidic roots and and a Misnagdic side. There was an example that I appreciated mentioning the mitzvah tanz, uh, where the groom's family does not really understand the custom, while the as a cherished tradition. And this was connected to the importance of attempting to listen to one another, similar to what occurred after October 7. The question arose, there was a question arose, was Herzl truly the Messiah ben Yosef, Mashiach ben Yosef, Messiah, son of Joseph? Is secular Zionism Messiah ben Yosef? What does that even mean? And we also heard from a student with a religious Zionist background, for whom this course touches on her own family story and early experiences. And I think this is great. I mean, we have here such a diverse group from different backgrounds and beliefs and practices, and I'm very happy. I welcome that. I think this is going to really enrich the discussions. And I am too. I also want to thank you all. I'm also very thankful and grateful, and I'm already enjoying myself, both teaching and just being exposed to your uh, just thoughts and responses. There was a mentioning of the link between Rav Kook, the father, right? Rav Avraham Yitzhak Cohen Kook and Hegel. This has been discussed quite extensively in scholarship. If any of you want some references, I'm happy to do so. Um, and though with some reservations, right? So it's always important to ask, is there a phenomenological similarity or was there actual historical influence, right? These are two different questions. I come from the field of Kabbalah, so often the question is asked, um, was Kabbalah derived from Gnosticism, or is there just phenomenological similarities? So there are different schools also on this. Gershom Sholem versus Moshe Idel. So did Rav Kook actually read Hegel? What did he read? Another example, Rav Soloveitchik, read philosophers he references? And he references quite a lot, right? Philosophers. Did he read them in the original language? Does it matter? And the concern with comparisons is obviously that they can sometimes be imprecise. Still, I do believe that the comparison to Hegel can be illuminating, and I definitely thank you and encourage you to continue with these kinds of comparisons. I was glad it came up. Another question, are there dangers in the dialectical view that history is moving towards redemption, right? There's determinist um, a determinist movement, right, towards redemption. Could this lead to legitimizing negative phenomena as part of redemption, right? Obviously, the we can also think of Sabbatianism, Shabtaut, and today we have also some phenomena, and not necessarily in religious Zionism. Yes, religious Zionism does also deal with negative phenomena, and we will get to that. But I want to refer to um, people like Rav Elazar Berland that you can Google, um, and Maybe also, perhaps, there is a lack of sufficient struggle against such phenomena since redemption will come anyway. So why even bother, right? So this is a real question, and I want to tell you that this one is a question that Rav Kook's own followers wrestle with, and there are a few major texts that I again can refer you to of Rav Kook's followers today that are noting A, that redemption can be delayed indefinitely, and human action can hasten it. So, yes, redemption is on its way, but it can take time. It can take time, and another point is redemption can arrive with suffering or without suffering. So in other words, we must act quickly against evil so that redemption will come swiftly and without unnecessary pain. The discussion also touched upon differences between American Jewry and Israeli Jewry in relations to Rav Kook, both in the ability to understand and interpret him and in the question of his relevance. One of you also mentioned the Keshet Pre-Military Academy run by followers of Rabbi Zvi Yehuda Kook, and the feeling that the place is obviously what was the word? There's too much Rav Kook, right? Rav Kook everywhere, anywhere, everywhere. And indeed, he is regarded as the teacher of the generation, right? He's not just another rabbi, he's the teacher, Hamoreh, Hamoreh Hagadol, Haroeh Hagadol, the envisioner, the great teacher of Jewish people in the land of Israel during the era of Israel's redemption. So Rav Kook announced it, and Rav Zvi Yehuda lived it. Rav Zvi Yehuda lived it because he is the only Rav Kook. So there are two Rav Kook, but he's the only Rav Kook who lived in the era of the state of Israel and addressed contemporary events, wars, politics, public struggles. Another point raised was that different people present themselves as students of Rav Kook, making it difficult to know who represents the true Rav Kook. For this reason, it is valuable to turn to primary sources to form our own impression. I agree. Yes, I agree. Though with some reservations, I do believe there are multiple ways to understand Rav Kook, but not endless number of ways. Um, we must listen. This is, again, my personal perspective. I believe that we must listen to their followers, to those who knew and studied with Rav Zvi Yehuda Kook, with Rav Avraham Yitzchak Kohen Kook, without dismissing or ignoring them. So at the same time, we must not accept everything they say uncritically, but apply our own critical sense. As a researcher, that's what I'm trying to do. I constantly seek this middle path, not detaching from the communities I study. I study communities, I study individuals, leaders, respecting them, understanding their self-perception, while also looking from the outside, offering alternative explanations and uncovering new insights. So I will conclude my response to the discussion with the following. Um, there is a dominant group among Rav Kook students who emphasize the struggle against impurity and evil. They argue, and we will get to this later on, we will touch upon this. They argue that not everything contains something good, right? According to them, the generation Hador is relevant in the sense that even today, yes, there are phenomena in which we can indeed find positive elements. But this does not mean that everything contains good. Trends that are considered secular, chulin, can be infused with holiness, with kodesh, with kedusha, or explained in light of holiness. For example, secular nationalism, secular culture, secular literature, secular army, the army is secular. These can all be integrated into the process of redemption, since redemption requires all these components, yet they're not sufficient on their own. More is needed. The body needs the soul. However, there are trends whose very aim is to destroy. They are not neutral, but actually impure. Tum'ah, not chulin, but rather tum'ah. And against these, one must struggle. At the forefront are postmodernism, yeah, progressivism, since they threaten the very existence of the state of Israel as a Jewish state. Yes, this is not my words, but these followers of Rav Kook's words. Yes, I'm just describing what they are saying. And if the state ceases to be Jewish, redemption will be delayed for many years. It will indeed come eventually, but only after much suffering. In contrast, other followers of Rav Kook argue Rav Kook himself found positive aspects even in heresy. Heresy is not neutral. Secular Zionism mocked the Talmud, mocked Kabbalah, mocked biblical figures. This is not neutral. Yet, their defenders would reply. They denied God, but it was the God of Galut, of exile, right? That's the God that they rejected, not the God of the land of Israel. Elohei Israel, Elohei Eretz Israel, Elohei Geula. And they did not deny the people of Israel, the peoplehood, the land of Israel. The crucial point was their connection to the collective, to the klal. And also here you can probably come up with some philosophers that align with this view, right? With these perspectives of the collective. We have some German thinkers. If you're interested, we can also mention them and maybe also speak about them in comparison to Rav Zvi Yehuda. Also in the Bible, the Talmud, it says that King Achav, for instance, was bound to the collective, and therefore he possessed a certain greatness, even though he was a sinner. These are topics we will continue to return to throughout the course. Finally, I do not expect you to read the sources in Hebrew. I will ensure that translations are provided using AI under my supervision. And this would be the last part of this video. So today we begin to delve into Rav Zvi Yehuda Kook. We will discuss his biography. Yeah, the second video will be his biography and his thought up until the eve of Six-Day War. Now, I wonder how many of you, and this is in light of the videos of you I saw, so I'm asking you. You don't have to reply. Yeah, I'm just wondering how many of you thought you were signing up for a course on Rav Kook the father. How many had even heard of Rav Zvi Yehuda Kook? So of course, Rav Kook the father deserves an entire course on his own. This is always part of the dilemma: how deeply to go. We're very limited in time, and that is fine. There's also value in surveying a topic from above while occasionally diving into specific points in depth. In my view, this course will be successful if it leaves you curious and motivated to read more primary sources on your own. Now, I want to make a general note about Rav Zvi Yehuda Kook and scholarship. Unfortunately, while much has been written on Rav Kook the father, and we can mention there's so many, there are dozens and dozens of books and writings, scholarly writings of professors Mirsky and Garb and Shapira and Rosnak and Sagi and Ravitsky and Schwartz, and I can just keep on going, and you may add other references, and I'm not aware of a single academic book devoted solely to Rav Zvi Yehuda. Most often, he is treated as an extension of his father, a kind of political and executive arm of Rav Kook the father. Thus, discussions of his unusually, the discussions of him, um, they usually focus on his role as his father's disciple, right? His political influence on the settlement movement, Gush Emunim, his role as teacher, educator, but not as a thinker. His ideas are often seen as a plain imitation of his father. In fact, I hope to persuade you that he was indeed a thinker in his own right. First, his political decisions themselves were made on the basis of ideological reasoning. Politics, for him, was not an accident, but a worldview tied to the state, the people of Israel, the role of Israel, questions of sovereignty, the sanctity of space, the army, and more. Second, Rav Zvi Yehuda himself was a Torah scholar, learned in languages, and he left behind a vast body of writings. And they demand close study. His language is difficult to understand, even for native Hebrew speakers, even for yeshiva students, but with sustained reading, one can acclimate and begin to grasp it. In Israel, there is a rabbi, and you can see him in front of you in the slide, named Rabbi Chagai Shtamler, who wrote a doctoral dissertation in Hebrew on Rav Zvi Yehuda, and later published a book titled Ayin Be'ayin. You can see it also here in front of you. They're printed twice. I recommend reading it. It's a good beginning, though of course Shtamler himself is a religious Zionist rabbi writing from within that standpoint. He sees himself as a follower of Rav Zvi Yehuda. The book was originally published by one of the Kook yeshivas, but someone thought it was too academic. And again, I will not get into this now, but if any of you are curious, I can share more. So they halted its printing and banned its distribution, right? They banned it, and eventually it was reissued through a press connected to Yeshivat Har Etzion, the Gush, um, which is not part of the Kook circle. Now, let us turn to the central points of Rav Zvi Yehuda Kook biography.